Hi guys, Kirk here with Kirk Giordano Plastering. Today what we're going to do is we're going to do the surround of this door here. You want to take a quick view of that? The last door leaked like a sieve, and we're on a deck here above the living room. So anyhow, I'll show you how we actually watertight this. Notice the flashing here is in great condition. When they did the deck here, they tied this membrane, which is full of fiber mesh and whatever acrylic they use, they put it in here. When I'm doing stuff like this, usually this fella, he does all his own lathing, and he called me and says, Kirk, the paper is completely deteriorated. There's nothing there. I said, well, tear all the stucco off. And he says, they don't want to do that. So this is how we do it when we're forced to deal with deteriorated paper or no paper. What we do is we do two sheets and we kind of shimmy it in back of here. We get it the best we can. And this fella used a Bosch Bulldog to break this out, which I even recommend that particular tool because it breaks it out with a lot of vibration, and you use very little muscle, which salvages the paper. We worked on the back of this house about 10 years ago, and the paper was in much better condition, but of course right here we're southwest, the sun's beating down, and I'll tell you, right now it's about 100 degrees and it's not even 11 o'clock, so this gets beat up. The heat hits this wall and bakes it and just disintegrates this paper. On the rear we had great paper. While we're on that, they had a deck that leaked here, and I asked the contractor, I said, is this what I think it is? They just put the fiber mesh or the fiber glass tape in here, and they'd use some kind of terpolymer, and they just painted it and painted up. I said, gee, how long do you think that's going to last? And right away he said, Kirk, I know. I told him tear all the stucco off on both sides. They didn't want to do that. And so I said, well, easy. I'm sorry I exploded. I just was curious. My question was, how long do you think it's going to last? I have an idea how long this type of fix will last, but I'll keep that to myself. Generally, you break all the stucco out, and if there's no good paper here, you take it to the top. You put a L flashing right here, roof to wall, then you put your membrane, then you re-stucco it, and that's what seals a deck, especially if it's over a living room. But I understand where that fella's coming with, because I have to deal with that all the time too. Anyhow, we're going to continue paper in this, and this is what we do. I get a lot of guys, they say, gee, should we use metal or paper? I'm using 2 layers of paper, and I'm pushing it in. Now I just now got about an inch and a half in there. 2 layers of paper. I just use small areas, and I kind of look at it and judge my paper. It takes a long time to kind of fish them in there because you'll hit a nail. You hit a nail or a staple, but there it is, 2 more layers. And I'm going to do this very slow process all the way up. And when it comes to doing the caulking, I'm going to forfeit my so-called key. And what that means is right in here I have a good key where the stucco goes in that groove and it bonds it real tight so it doesn't crack. But instead I'm going to fill this with a polyurethane caulking, and I'm going to hit this area with a polyurethane caulking. I'm going to fuse the paper to the wood, and then I'm going to fuse this in here. That's the best you can do if you're not willing to tear the whole wall off. Anyhow, when we get wiring, I'll show you how we do that too. Alright guys, I'll give you a tip too. The tip of my utility knife. I just spent about 15 minutes here just lifting this paper up and pulling some nails out, because we want all these nails out, and there's some fur strips, we want those out too. So that's about 15 minutes behind the scene using this knife blade. And what I can do now that I've got that done is I get my 2 layers and I slide them under. And usually if you have a very clean, this is the edge of the paper, got a clean edge like that, and it'll slide a lot better. Say for example, all right, I take this and I start fishing it up there, and it's got to go underneath this existing. If it doesn't go underneath it, it's not doing any good. Okay, and you just slide it. Now what it'll do, okay, it's hit a nail or a rock or it hit something, but the idea is it's got to slide under there. And if it doesn't slide under there, well, I have to take it to the top. Sometimes we have to tear the whole thing off. Anyhow, You get the idea. It's gotta, you see this one here? This one's sliding under. That's about 1.5 inches underneath the existing. We want that. And then when I put my next piece, notice this. This is somewhat important too. I don't just put a piece right here. I overlap this one and I overlap this guy here. You've got to overlap. The verticals are usually 3 inches overlap. So that's why I'm way over that. We want to overlap as much as possible. Then once we get that done, I'll take it to the next stage real quick. We take this wire, we bend it back. I'm using my hammer tacker to bend it back. I could use a hammer. I could use the gun, my nail gun. I could use my hand. I'm wearing gloves. Get it like this. Pop a couple staples in it just to temporarily hold it before the big gun. Then we take our new wire and let's see. We want to overlap the existing wire. And this is going to go to all the way to the wall. And keep in mind too, we still got to caulk this. We're going to put a bead of caulk in here and in here. And here's a technique that, okay, this is too wide. I can stretch this. Now it's just right. If it doesn't have the factory edge, it'll stretch. It has a factory edge, you can't stretch it. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this lath and then we'll show you the completion when we're done. All right guys, we're going to wrap this up right now, but Jay, Dan, and I are doing other things on this job. Dan says, what do you mean, Dad? As far as it won't stretch. Well, the one I stretched didn't have this factory edge. You try to stretch one with a factory edge, you won't do it because of the factory edge here. But I am going to use this up here to tie this in. And lastly, I'm not going to start the gun up yet. I'm tacking all this temporarily. If I use my big gun, it drowns us out. Nobody can hear. The compressor's too loud. This is what I'm talking about beating up my key. If I shoot this polyurethane caulking in here, like so, now I kind of lose my stucco key. But when we come back here to do the cement work, I don't worry about a key myself. Never have. We'll be using a pretty good cement. I'm not worried about a hairline crack here. If it cracks, it cracks. When this cures in 30 days and they go to paint, if they have a hairline crack, they can put a little caulking in it and paint it. But they got to let that set for 28 days anyhow. And then I seal this side. Anyhow, folks, my name is Kirk. Jason on the camera as usual, and he helped me lath this too. And as usual, guys, we'll see you on the next one.